Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Second and Saints, our Saints post-game show. John Hendricks alongside Ross Jackson here. We got another victory to talk about, Ross. Maybe not the prettiest one. Maybe not the prettiest victory, but the ultimate definition of overcoming the odds. Resiliency here. Initial thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think resiliency is it's the word. Like, that's the thing that Darren Rizzi was talking about after the game. Like, their whole identity going into this game was to finish. 21 points in the fourth quarter on the offensive side is a pretty good way to finish. And how about Taysom Hill?
Golly.
My goodness, what a game.
101, man.
Yes. In actuality, we were talking to him after the game. We were talking about how, like, being compared to like all these guys that no one's ever heard of, and all these other things that no one in the locker room has ever heard of, and everything. There was just a cool moment, like, to be able to see that. And this is what we expected for Taysom Hill and this New Orleans Saints team for quite some time. You could even take a touchdown or two off the board, and it would still look like the Taysom Hill that we expected to see throughout the season. So just great to see from kind of all three phases, a little bit of all that, but Taysom's the story here for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, this is a guy who came in and obviously, had dealt with a lot. We saw everything in training camp, the way he was operating. We knew this had the potential to be really big. Gets the injury, starts to get a little bit more involved. Like, he was more of the blocking guy, but today was like all featured. And then, to have a pick in the first half and the fumble, and he went into the locker room at half. He was pissed, and nobody's harder on himself, he said, obviously. But Darren Rizzi said, you're still going to get the ball, right?
Yeah,
and so he was able to respond to that. And, I think it's just a textbook example of the culture change here in New Orleans.
Yeah, big time. I love the highlight of them still trusting him to go for the football. I think that, or to give him the football. I think that this is now 2 weeks in a row that Darren Rizzi has had a conversation with players and then immediately come out and made good on that conversation. Remember last week they talked about being more aggressive. They get that first fourth and two, I think. They had that first fourth down on the opposite side of the 50. They talked about all week, if we get the fourth and short, 3 or closer on the other side of the 50, we're going for it. They went for it. They didn't get it, but it still proves something to the players that he meant what he said. Here up at Taysom Hill, you saw the same thing. Told him in the second half, like you mentioned, they're going to give him the ball, and boy, did they give him the football. In fact, at one point, you look at a game where they're in a 4-minute situation, and 2 plays in a row, Taysom Hill's at quarterback. Derek Carr's on the side.
Yeah, right.
And everything.
Exactly.
So, like, really, when they talked about, like, we're not going to not trust you, they really, really proved that to him in the second half.
Yeah, and I love the fact on that fourth down play of the patience he showed. He said he knew what was coming, and he's seen that look before, but just having a little bit of patience there, being able to find where it's at. And then he said nobody's in the secondary, so he knew he was gone. And then on the touchdown run, I mean, they roll in the extra jumbo, with Oli Udoh and such, and have to try to close out the game, go win the game, right, and stuff. I mean, the game was won, I guess, if you could say that in a way, but, put them away, put it out of reach, right? And so for him to be able to go around, and I don't know if the Browns gave up on that play or not, but it's just Taysom didn't look like he was running full speed either. But, I mean, a big day, 3 touchdowns on the ground, like 200-plus all-purpose yards. I mean, and he had the 42-yard kick return.
Lights out.
6 catches, I think it was, or 8 catches maybe. On 10 targets and such. So, I mean, this is more reminiscent. And look, Clint Kubiak was in his bag today.
Bag.
So many. I turned to you. I said, I don't know how many games in the past, like during the losing streak, how many times they've motioned a wide receiver in the backfield. But I mean, talk a little bit about what you saw from there.
Yeah, we saw a lot of good things. I think one of the first things that I'll mention in terms of that motion, you pointed out the orbit motion that we saw a lot of in this game, where you had the wide receiver orbiting all the way around the quarterback in the backfield. That ended up setting up, that it was the orbit motion on the draw play in particular early on in that first drive was great. The play design on the 71-yard catch and run touchdown by Marquez Valdes-Scantling was outstanding on that play as well. Derek Carr just finding his guy in that one. Juwan Johnson, 40-plus yards downfield blocking. I love seeing that. That's one of my favorite things in the world to see. And then you look at just the scaffolding of the play, particularly the Taysom Hill playbook. It comes out at fullback, runs a lead blocker on a dive, then he's the lead blocker on an outside run, then he's catching a pass, and then he's the runner on a 10-yard touchdown to cap it off, an opening drive touchdown for the New Orleans Saints. So I think that when you see those types of things, you can kind of see where Klint Kubiak is at his most comfortable. It's when he's able to move pieces around and be able to kind of build, okay, we're going to build an expectation over the course of these couple plays. Then I'm going to change that expectation on you or try to take advantage of that. I think you saw that in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I think you saw it again in the fourth quarter. It was the second and third quarters, kind of the middle of the game, where you saw maybe that kind of like tinker down just a little bit. But even though it did throttle down, the fact they were able to get it back up and running in the fourth quarter is what's different than what we've seen from a lot of the season so far.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing in a space where you got lead. Of course, the Browns were able to come back and tie the game, but then you're able to kind of counter a little bit, be able to move the football, get some things going for you, what you needed. I mean, that Dante Pettis punt return was a huge spark for this team. I mean, there's a lot of things. And again, all the voodoo magic of Dustin Hopkins missing 3 kicks, like 2 on the same
4, really, right? Because one of them didn't count.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, but like, golly, this doesn't happen, and for this team, you pointed out Juwan Johnson, Darren Rizzi, or Derek Carr talking about a selfless act for him, and then he gets rewarded with a touchdown. And this is a game where Alvin was still a factor, but he wasn't having to be the focal point here. And look, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, all he does is make big plays now. Like, he's more like MVP instead of MVS at this moment. But aside that, Derek Carr had a really good day too. 21-27. Missed 6 passes, 2 touchdowns, and looks comfortable. I mean, they're getting the formula together. And I think when you look at the 2-0 team here and this 2-0 block here, this is probably more what this team is, right? Like, it's not a polished by any means, right? Like, it was still a lot that is left to the imagination. By far not a perfect game that you want to play. But I think it's more real down to earth of what this team actually is.
100%. I think that it's great to see them come in on a 2-game losing streak where nothing goes completely perfectly. There was imperfection that this team had to battle, adversity that this team had to overcome. And we saw them do that in a really, really good way over the course of the past two games. You look at the Atlanta game, the language was, or the message from Demario Davis, the starting linebacker and defensive leader, was if there's a lead in the fourth quarter, it needs to be ball game. Defense put that game away. Chase Young with a big sack fumble, Ugo Amadi with a great tackle on 4th down. And then you see this game where the language was finished. The message was finished. The message was win at the line of scrimmage, which I think that they did. They only allowed 3 points per carry, 66 total rushing yards for the Cleveland Browns, meanwhile they ran for over 200 yards on their side, 214. And then the other thing was focus on the preparation, which has been the message since Darren Rizzi really kind of took over. And you saw all of that play out here. And you saw all of that play out. This team indeed did finish. They kept gas as well. You saw Taysom Hill. He ain't slide. He didn't even think about sliding. He didn't even think about it.
Shouldn't have
on that one. Derek Carr, he gets around for an 8-yard run at one point. Didn't even think about sliding. Like, this was a team that was looking to finish plays, finish quarters, finish games. They did a good job.
Yeah, I was joking. I was like, I said this is the QB Eagles play, and those who played technical football back in the day is like legitimately what he did was going around with Trevor Penning out there. And again, you just look at this offensive performance, and I think that, where they were able to find success, I love the fact that they had a lot of inside screens. They got a lot of players involved that, with this offense. And I think that's obviously a winning formula for this team. I mean, there was one bad play. I had a couple of them, but, like Trevor Penning giving up a pressure and attack, all that happens. And, but I think that when you look at this offense, again, being down Chris Olave, being down Rashid Shaheed, and Eric McCoy having to go out with the groin injury. We'll talk about that plenty here soon, but it's just to see Klint Kubiak kind of be in his bag a little bit here. And then the execution is there too. It's one with the other, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah. And it's good to see the complementary style of everything, right? Even when the defense gave something up, the offense was able to respond. When the offense started to take control, the defense started to take control too. Like, the offense wasn't the only one that finished this game strong. It was punt, turnover and downs, punt for the Cleveland Browns in their final 4 possessions of this game in the fourth quarter. That's the defense. The defense got that done. And so, look, I don't think that there's a reason to start punching tickets to playoffs or anything like that for this team right now. But when it comes down to what they needed to prove this week, I think that they proved that. And I love the fact that everybody's rallying around Darren Rizzi, who is becoming a weekly meme, by the way. The NFL account, the NFL Sunday kickoff account, they've been tweeting stuff around him, everything like that. He's just a weekly meme at this point. But they want they want him to succeed. And they've rallied around him. Derek Carr talking about how they want to go out there and perform to give him the best chance of becoming the full-time guy. He's trying to go from part-time to full-time. He's trying to get that bag.
I mean, the way he's doing it too. I mean, you hear what Demario Davis has to say, Taysom Hill, having the conversations. I mean, it's like the genuine person and what you get. And we highlighted this on our pregame show that people get bought in with Darren Rizzi. It's so easy to follow this guy because he's somebody that gets in the trenches with you. He's like a Dan Campbell, like a D'Amico Ryans. And again, he's got a long ways to go here, but he's doing the things to win over the locker room and completely turn this team around in 2 weeks is just insane.
Yeah.
And, you know, defensively, they, like Demario Davis said, Joe Woods, they trust in what he plays, what does his calls, but the players believe, they buy into it, that they're going to go execute, and they believe in everything, and he's putting it on the players to make the plays. And again, it wasn't without its blemishes, right?
Sure.
Jameis Winston almost throws for 400 yards. He played exceptionally well for the most part.
Really well.
But they did do a good job of controlling Nick Chubb. Only one real big run that I remember him having, but you know, defensively getting some stops when they needed it most. Demario Davis said having that mindset going into the fourth quarter up 21-0, and then being able to close out the game. I mean, this is a winning formula, a winning strategy, if you will. I don't know if it's sustainable because you got the Rams right behind the bye week, which comes at a great time. But look, you know, so far 2 games into the Darren Rizzi era, it's giving a lot of people and a lot of players a reason to believe.
It's giving Riz. It's giving Riz. It's working. I love it. I think that the other thing to look at here too is that, like, I think that this method of winning that they have found is more sustainable than the 40-point outputs to open up the season. You know what I mean? Like being able to see them navigate some adversity, being able to see them do things despite everything not being perfect on their side. That's more sustainable. And I love that when Taysom Hill was asked about Darren Rizzi, the first thing he talked about was communication. Because Taysom Hill has been notably critical of the New Orleans Saints for not communicating well, right? When it came to his role and stuff like that, I'm talking about, like, I wish it would have been communicated differently. The Kendre Miller situation earlier, everyone wishes that would have been communicated differently, all that. Darren Rizzi comes in. First thing Taysom Hill compliments him on is his ability to communicate. I think that that's big. And I think we're seeing this team be able to benefit from that too. You see Will Harris talking all over the defense. You see Derek Carr making a bunch of changes, calls, checks, and stuff like that at the line of scrimmage. I think communication is something that has led to a lot of the success that they're finding right now.
Yeah, and it's just bizarre because of, again, we said it, like, how is it taking it this long to get here? You know what I mean? Like, and again, I don't want to sit here and harp on it. It's a lost season or anything like that, and they figure it out too little too late. But, you know, stranger things have happened. But it just matters now going in this direction where they're in this evaluation period where they got to figure out a lot of things on the table, but you're getting a lot of lift from these players that you're supposed to. We said that this is going to revolve around 4, 7, and 41. And this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like is, you know, you might get an Alvin game. You might get the Taysom game like this one, or Derek Carr still playing really well in this one, in this equation too. And then when you sprinkle in like Marquez Valdes-Scantling or guys like Foster Moreau stepping up to the table or Juwan Johnson.
Kevin Austin making another big catch.
I mean, it's just, it's not, or even a Dante Pettis moving the sticks on a big third down. Like, I mean, you know, this is a guy that wasn't supposed to be in the equation. He's a practice squad. So, I mean, they're getting the lift from what they need right now. And again, it's always been said, you want to play your best football right after Thanksgiving. You want to be ascending, going into the playoffs. I don't know if they can get there, but at least this gives people a reason, like I said, to believe it.
Yeah, they're going to give themselves a shot. They're going to force themselves to be a part of the conversation. This is a team that wants to compete. This is a team that wants to win. They've done it 2 games in a row. Let's see how many more times they can do it before the season is all said and done. They got a big challenge on the way when it comes to Los Angeles Rangers. No doubt about that, right? That's an offense that you can't give up the explosive plays to, which this team learned last year the hardest way possible on Thursday Night Football. So we'll see how it looks. But I got to say that when it comes to the early audition for Darren Rizzi, he's nailing it so far.
Yeah, and look, you mentioned it, Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp just went off. Like the Rams had a heck of a day with Matthew Stafford. So they're going to be challenged. A lot more to break down here for Second and Saints. Don't go anywhere. Brief sponsor commercial. We'll be right back. Hey folks, John Hendricks here, Second and Saints. Wanted to talk to you quickly about Underdog because it is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players by just selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. This season, Underdog is going to be running a special promo or bonus almost every single day, like profit boosts, discounts, or free picks. Plus, all new users get a free pick. You could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Create entries with all football selections or mix and match across your favorite sports. Underdog puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you can either keep riding with your entry or tap the Win Now button to cash out whenever you want. And with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose. With Underdog's Double Flex option, you can even take 2 L's and still have your entry to be a win. So go download the app today and use code Second Saints to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's code Second Saints. Now here comes the legal jargon. Must be 18 or older, 19 and older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 and older in Colorado for some games, 21 and older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Back here on Second and Saints, John Hendricks alongside Ross Jackson, breaking down another Saints win, which we absolutely love to do. I mean, we'll talk about it regardless, but before we broke, we were talking a little bit about the defense, but even in just also talking about just the team's trajectory. Atlanta just got handled by the Broncos today, 38-6, 2 straight losses now. Again, I'm telling you, there's a chance. There is a chance, but it just makes for intriguing football. Like, this is the same story over and over again. Somehow we get to this point again. And again, there's a lot of football left to be played. But if the Saints can continue to play this way, defensively, what do they need to clean up? Because obviously Jameis Winston had a pretty good day. The big pass to hook up Jerry Jeudy. I mean, the Saints are good at making people look really good sometimes. And Jerry Jeudy was really not a factor, but made him look like Superman today.
140 plus receiving yards in the day for Jerry Jeudy, aided by that 89-yard catch and run. I think what happened on that one, if I seen what I think I seen, is that Jerry Jeudy sold outside kind of release on that one, and on that outside sell, you saw Alontae Taylor kind of bite. And then from biting from that outside sell, when you're in a man-to-man situation, if you convince me you're going this way and then you go that way, I'm in a lot of trouble, right? If you convince me you're going left and then actually you cut to the inside, and then sort of in that man-to-man situation where I'm already trailing you, and you got a little bit of a head start on me, like, that's going to be tough to compete with. And so that's kind of what happened there from what I saw when it came to Alontae. So I think that, like, that's a big adjustment that he's going to have to make. He's got a bye week to kind of recalibrate and reset. I want to give him a lot of credit, though, because in the second half, he better and everything. And sometimes that stuff we've seen in Alontae Taylor before struggle in the first half and then kind of start to play down in the second half. Stuff that ended up finding him on the side a couple of times last year. He didn't see that in this. He had 2 pass pickups and everything, by the time it was all said and done. Didn't surrender any other big plays as the second half rolled along. It was one that touchdown to Elijah Moore up in the back corner of the end zone, where I need to watch the tape. It felt like it was like a kind of a cover 2 situation. Well, Harris, for whatever reason, got pulled forward towards the center, didn't have the coverage over in the back end to support Alontae playing a little bit underneath. So when he didn't get, and then Will Harris didn't go over to the sideline, or the reasons for it, I'll look at the other route combinations that pulled everybody in different directions. That ended up kind of opening things up. And 10 times out of 10, Jameis is going to find that guy. That's that wide open. You know what I mean? So outside of that, I think that, what you saw from Alontae Taylor in the second half was better than what you saw in the first half, but he's got to start strong and finish strong next game up against the Rams.
Yeah. First, when you were talking about that, like that, I was like, don't tear your ACL or anything like that.
I got the suit on.
You never know. You never know. But you were talking about, like, the slump in the second and third quarter. The only, like, the big things that I was concerned about or was not really happy about is the lack of a pass rush. I think that was part of that. I think other things kind of jumping around, like, I thought Kool-Aid McKinstry was pretty quiet on the day, and I think that's a good thing. That the fact that, you're not really targeting much. Of course, he was around for that big play. But again, what I'd like to see this defense is to elevate the pass rush and play in the middle more, because they were able to finish. They were able to get the sacks, like Brian Brzee getting one, Carl Granderson getting one on the following play. I mean, this is what you want to see in the final quarter. But those middle frames, you gotta elevate a little bit. I like the fact, and we've talked about Alontae Taylor plenty. He might get beat on one play, but he comes right back. Like, he has a short-term memory. And this is kind of what we were looking at, is that, we touched on this in our pregame show, or game preview, that when the Rams come to town, that's the game he got benched, right? Last year when they were on the road and one. So he's going to have an interesting task in his hand. And Cam getting plus snaps in here. And DeMar Davis spilling it. On his hand. But I mean, guy only had one real tackle, because trying to make it with a put your hands on a defender, you're really not going to be able to do that. Thought that was just a display of a guy who wanted to be out there, and that's what we're kind of getting from these players right now. That want to play for Darren Rizzi. They want to play. They want to go out there, want to win. Want to give themselves a chance to win. But there are some things that they can clean up. A couple of picks. He has to go on Amazon to go buy some new hands. Ugo had a chance at a pick. There's four players I remember that had a chance at a pick. And so those types of things, when you are could potentially make this a run, or potentially at the end, this is what is that they have capital.
Yeah, you need to put their away in each game and stuff like that. Especially when the offense is hot and fun.
So, as we kind of get closer to wrapping up, get to talk about game balls again. We already know offensively, it's without question, Taysom. Right? Have a game like that. It's funny, they talk about like grain. And I was a nerd. I used to study back those books. When I went to the library when I was I checked out this book. It's about Taysom, because he put it out. You asked a question about the legacy of Taysom.
.net. And so the big thing for me is you have a guy being compared to all these this point, and he's become the first player since Red Grange. He becomes the Spicy Feet McGee and like all this other stuff and everything. But is that like, are we ever going to see anybody that becomes the first player since Taysom Hill to do something? Right? Or is Taysom Hill kind of the last of the Mohicans in this way of being like the last of his kind when it comes to all the things he can do on a football field? I thought Derek Carr illustrated it extremely well. You get a 200 play playbook. Good luck, first of all. But then when you're a guy that has to look at the 200 play playbook and understand how to execute every play as the quarterback, how to execute every play as the running back, the fullback, the wide receiver, the tight end, in line, in the slot, out wide, all this other stuff, like, that's what Taysom Hill has to do on a weekly basis. And he comes out. The only reason why he doesn't have games like this every week is because the game plan changes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm looking forward to seeing him. Maybe they keep him more involved up against the Rams.
Yeah.
But I just don't, we're going to see another Taysom Hill. Like, I think what we're seeing is be at least like maybe in our lifetime. But I don't know if we're going to see anybody ever.
Remember, he's just a great player, right? It's fun because, again, you look at teams have tried to get next Taysom Hill. They
McSorley.
Frank is another one.
Yeah.
Tommy Stevens. I don't know what Sean's thinking of. But I mean, these there's just no substitute for a player. Packers gets on this player phenom that things in the 30s. I mean, definitely too. But like some, at any rate, you just look at history. I'm with you. I don't think we'll ever see a player like Taysom Hill. He has to get a game ball. I'd have to give one to because of his day. And look, I think him, honorable mentions maybe Marquez Valdes-Scantling, because that was a huge problem. That doesn't happen unless Derek Carr does his thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I liked what Juwan Johnson was able to do. Foster Moreau probably gets an honorable mention. But again, the offensive line, for all intents and purposes,
I was about to say,
looks solid again. You know what I mean? And even losing Eric McCoy, I thought Shane Lemieux did a good job filling in for that. But, too many to go around, I guess, in the offensive side when you look at it.
Yeah, I was gonna just throw in a game ball specifically for Taliesin Fuanga, who drew Myles Garrett a ton in this game. Got some help, but as Derek Carr mentioned, you're not always going to get that help. Sometimes you just have to beat the guy in front of you, and I thought that he did a good job there. And then probably going over on the defensive side, how about Chase Young getting a tackle for a loss on a screen when he was late on a substitution, didn't even get set. He just ran on, made a play, and was like, all right. Like, that's crazy. That's wild. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, no, I thought that was incredible. I mean, and it just shows, again, just the fact of these players just playing up at the right time. You know what I mean? I think that's what we see on it. And I know more is going to come defensively. It was just, we give up that many yards, especially to Jameis and stuff, is just – there's a lot of things to correct. There's a lot of things that you got to fix. But when it mattered most, defense was able to go in there, make the stops, do what they needed to do. And, look, they lost a turnover battle today. It doesn't always happen. Like, they've been on the other side of it where they win the turnover battle, do all this voodoo magic, and still lose a game. Now it's nice for them to actually be in a situation where they win the turnover battle or lose the turnover battle and still win the game.
Yeah. It's just a lot of things going their way, not just because of luck, but because they made it that way. And I think that's a good thing, too. I love this performance for New Orleans. I thought this was a resilient performance. I thought this was a bit of a prove it performance for themselves too, to just say, okay, yes, we have an idea of who we are. I think that's just value in that. I don't know if they proved anything to anybody outside the building, but I don't think that they care. I think they proved something to themselves, and I think that's the valuable part, the most important part. And now to get a week off to kind of chill, get ready for the next one, and then see what they're able to put together when it comes to the Rams. So,
look, and I mean, you got to worry about what happens with Eric McCoy. And I think that's something, but
big one.
Look, they said it was more of we get a more definitive update on Monday from Darren Rizzi, but kind of held him out as more of a precaution because he tried to go back in, he was on the bike and all that stuff, but they kind of said, let's just be a little bit more cautious here. And so again, you hope it's not a re-aggravation or if it's something different, but that would be another loss, and that would be unfortunate for him to come back just to go back on the injury report. But the team has been doing pretty well. Foster went out with a shoulder injury, was able to come back in, so that was good to see. But again, another really impressive win. You know what I mean? It's Darren Rizzi talked about getting the Magic back in the Superdome and winning the Superdome back. I thought the fans were pretty good today again, showing up. I mean, again, there's 3-17. You don't show up for a 3-17.
Right.
You don't show up for a 2-17, but they did it last week and they did it again this week, and they're going to be counted on to do it again when the Rams come to town.
Absolutely. So fill it, pack it.
Yeah.
Pack it, have fun.
I'm sure those tickets aren't that bad right now.
Yeah, I'm saying. And it's a fun environment, man. Like, we saw everybody dancing and everything like that. Everything. They had the players out here were dancing. Willie Gay Jr. was waving goodbye to the Cleveland Browns and everything. Like, the energy is absolutely here. It's a fun time to be here and to be able to take it in. And so, we'll see. It could be some fireworks next week up against Los Angeles. I think there will need to be. If the Saints want to be able to hang there. We'll see how it goes. But I think this is a ticket worth buying right now. Yep. And when DeMario said, when DeMario said it, when you're winning, everything's good, right? Yeah. It is. And so hopefully they can keep this going, but we'll find out. Ross, as always, what's coming up on Locked On and what you got on LouisianaSports.net? Yeah, so big thing on LouisianaSports.net. I'll have my column up later on, diving into Taysom Hill, some of the incredible things that he's done and how I don't think we're going to see another one of him at all. And then for Locked On, all throughout the week, we're taking a look at future head coaching candidates, although Darren Rizzi's making his case. I'm probably going to start off there. Yeah. Darren Rizzi is absolutely making his case. So we'll probably do 6 episodes instead of 5 episodes. I want to do 15 coaches over the course of 5 episodes, but I'm going to make it 16 coaches over 6 episodes because Darren Rizzi deserves his own because he's been awesome. So that'll be coming up all throughout the week after the Monday breakdown of this game, since we don't have a game to preview going next week. And, of course, more of it here on Second Saints as well. You got coming over at Saints Network. I mean, got the game call. It was all about the resiliency, the way this kind of built himself up. And this is really nice. You're talking about coaching. I think it's fascinating because
I think Aaron Glenn is probably one of those leading guys
For
in
sure.
that conversation, which it'd be interesting because he interviewed before, Rick interviewed before, and obviously chose the. But
Right.
I think it was a strong candidate. But if we can continue to stick these wins, again, I said 5-3, got to really get him. If he can make 6-2, or if he can run the table, you can't argue against him.
Right.
I mean, you just, at that point, go find tune what you need, and the guy can get what you need helps him.
Yeah.
But phenomenal job. I think special teams has done well, even with him moving into another role too. So I've been impressed with him. He's been the Darren Rizzi of all here. No, you didn't. Resilient. There you go. On that note, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe button, and spread the word, guys. We appreciate all the support. On behalf of Ross Jackson, signing out. HENDRIX, Second and Saints.
Love you.